The history of Bavaria stretches from its earliest settlement and its formation as a stem duchy in the 6th century through its inclusion in the Holy Roman Empire to its status as an independent kingdom and finally as a large Bundesland of the modern Federal Republic of Germany. Early settlements in Roman Rhaetia. There have been numerous Paleolithic discoveries in Bavaria. The earliest known inhabitants that are mentioned in written sources were the Celts, participating in the widespread Latin culture, whom the Romans subdued just before the commencement of the Christian era, founding colonies among them and including the land in the provinces of Rhaetia and Noricum. The Roman center of administration for this area was Castra Regina. Migrations and early medieval period. During the 5th century, the Romans in Noricum and Rhaetia, south of the Danube, came under increasing pressure from people north of the Danube, which had become inhabited by Suebian groups from the north and had come to be considered a part of Germania. The etymological origins of the name Bavarian are from the north of the Danube, outside the empire, coming from the Celtic Boii, who lived there earlier. The name was already used to refer to part of this region in the time of Maroboduas, who formed the Germanic Marcomannic kingdom with its capital in this forested area. Boii became Bai according to typical Germanic linguistic changes happening at the time, and a Germanic word similar to English home or modern German Heim was added. Strabo therefore reports Bohemia. Tacitus similarly reports that Bohemia is the name given to the area where the Boii had lived. These forms lead to modern Bohemia, which lies to the east of modern Bavaria and completely to the north of the Danube. At some later stage the ending Varii was used in order to give a new name to specific people living in this geographical area who were then living on both sides of the Danube. Claudius Ptolemy named both the Binochimi, living on the upper Elbe River, and a large people known as the Baemoi, living near the Danube. In surviving records, the Bavarian name was first mentioned historically by the Franks in a list of peoples prepared in c. 520 AD. The first document that also describes the location is the History of the Goths by the historian Jordanus, dating from 551 AD. A remark by Venantius Fortunatus follows in his description of his travels from Ravenna to Tours, in which he had crossed the lands of the Bavarians, referring to the dangers of travel in the region. If the road is clear and if the Bavarian does not stop you, then travel across the Alps. Archaeological evidence dating from the 5th and 6th centuries points to social and cultural influences from several regions and peoples, such as Alemanni, Lombards, Thuringians, Goths, Bohemian Slavs, and the local Romanized population. According to the narrative traditions collected by the Bishop of Cologne and some other documents, the Bavarians had come from Armenia, the land of Noah's Ark. Recent research by Wolfram and Pohl has moved away from searching for specific geographical origins of the Bavarians. It is now thought that the tribal ethnicity was established by the process of ethnogenesis, whereby an ethnic identity is formed because political and social pressures make a coherent identity necessary. The stem Duchy of Bavaria, and the Agelolfings under Frankish overlordship. The Bavarians soon came under the dominion of the Franks, probably without a serious struggle. The Franks regarded this border area as a buffer zone against peoples to the east, such as the Avars and the Slavs, and as a source of manpower for the army. Sometime around 550 AD they put it under the administration of a duke, possibly Frankish, possibly chosen from amongst the local leading families, who was supposed to act as a regional governor for the Frankish king. The first duke known was Garibald I, a member of the powerful Agelolfing family. This was the beginning of a series of Agelolfing dukes that was to last until 788 AD. For a century and a half, a succession of dukes resisted the inroads of the Slavs on their eastern frontier, and by the time time of Duke Theodore I, who died in 717, had achieved complete independence from the feeble Frankish kings. When Charles Martel became the virtual ruler of the Frankish realm, he brought the Bavarians into strict dependence and deposed two dukes, successively for contumacy. His son and successor Pepin the Short likewise maintained Frankish authority. Several marriages took place between the family to which he belonged and the Agelolfings, who were united in a similar manner with the kings of the Lombards. The ease with which the Franks suppressed various risings gives color to the supposition that family quarrels rather than the revolt of an oppressed people motivated the rebellions. Bavarian law was committed to writing between the years 739 AD and 748 AD. Supplementary clauses added afterwards bear evidence of Frankish influence. Thus, while the duchy belongs to the Agelolfing family, the duke must be chosen by the people and his election confirmed by the Frankish king, to whom he owes fealty. The duke has a five-fold war guild, summons the nobles and clergy for purposes of deliberation, calls out the host, administers justice and regulates finance. 5 noble families exist, possibly representing former divisions of the people. Subordinate to the nobles we find the freeborn and then the freedmen. The law divided the country into gates or counties, under the counts, assisted by judges responsible for declaring the law. Christianity had lingered in Bavaria from Roman times, but a new era set in when Bishop Rupert of Worms came to the county at the invitation of Duke Theodore I in 696. He founded several monasteries, as did Bishop Emmerin of Poitiers, with the result that before long, most of the people professed Christianity and relations commenced between Bavaria and Rome. The 8th century witnessed indeed a heathen reaction, but the arrival of St. Boniface in Bavaria during c. 734 AD checked apostasy. Boniface organized the Bavarian Church and founded a restored bishoprics at Salzburg, Freising, Regensburg and Passau. Tassilo III, who became Duke of the Bavarians in 749, recognized the supremacy of the Frankish king, Pepin the Short in 757 AD, but soon afterwards refused to furnish a contribution to the war in Aquitaine. Moreover, during the early years of the reign of Charlemagne, Tassilo gave decisions in ecclesiastical and civil causes in his own name, refused to appear in the assemblies of the Franks, and in general acted as an independent ruler. His control of the Alpine passes and his position as an ally of the Avars and as son-in-law of the Lombard king, Desiderius, became so troublesome to the Frankish kingdom that Charlemagne determined to crush him. The details of this contest remain obscure. Tassilo appears to have done homage in 781 AD and again in 787 AD, probably owing to the presence of Frankish armies. But further trouble soon arose, and in 788 AD, the Franks summoned the Duke to Ingelheim and sentenced him to death on a charge of treachery. The king, however, pardoned Tassilo, who entered a monastery and formally renounced his duchy at Frankfurt in 794. Gerald, a brother-in-law of Charlemagne, ruled Bavaria till his death in a battle with the Avars in 799. When Frankish counts took over the administration and assimilated the land with the rest of the Carolingian Empire, measures taken by Charlemagne for the intellectual progress and material welfare of his realm improved conditions. The Bavarians offered no resistance to the change which thus abolished the duchy. Their incorporation with the Frankish dominions, due mainly to the unifying influence of the Church, appeared already so complete that Charlemagne did not find it necessary to issue more than 2 capitularies dealing especially with Bavarian affairs. the duchy during the Carolingian period. The history of Bavaria for the ensuing century intertwines with that of the Carolingian Empire. Bavaria, given during the partition of 817 AD to the king of the East Franks, Louis the German, formed a part of the larger territories confirmed to him in 843 AD by the Treaty of Verdun. Louis made Regensburg the center of his government and actively developed Bavaria, providing for its security by numerous campaigns against the Slavists. When he divided his possessions in 865 AD, it passed to his eldest son, Carloman, who had already managed its administration, and after his death in 880 AD it became a part of the extensive territories of the Emperor Charles the Fat. This incompetent ruler left its defense to Arnulf, an illegitimate son of Carloman. Mainly due to the support of the Bavarians, Arnulf could take the field against Charles in 887 AD and secure his own election as a German king in the following year. In 899 AD, Bavaria passed to Louis the Child, during whose reign continuous Hungarian ravages occurred. Resistance to these inroads became gradually feeble, and tradition has it that on the 5th of July 907 almost the whole of the Bavarian tribe perished in the Battle of Pressburg against these formidable enemies. During the reign of Louis the Child, Luitpold, Count of Schern, who possessed large Bavarian domains, ruled the Mark of Carinthia, created on the southeastern frontier for the defense of Bavaria. He died in the Great Battle of 907 AD, but his son Arnulf, surnamed the Bad, rallied the remnants of the tribe, in alliance with the Hungarians became Duke of the Bavarians in 911 AD, uniting Bavaria and Carinthia under his rule. The German king, Conrad I, attacked Arnulf when the latter refused to acknowledge his royal supremacy but failed in the end. Duchy during the Ottonian and Salian periods. In 920 AD, Conrad's successor was the German king, Henry the Fowler of the Ottonian dynasty. Henry recognized Arnulf as duke, confirming his right to appoint bishops, coin money and issue laws. A similar conflict took place between Arnulf's son and successor Eberhard and Henry's son Otto I the Great. Eberhard proved less successful than his father, and in 938 AD, fled from Bavaria, which Otto granted to the late duke's uncle, Berthold. Otto also appointed a Count Palatine in the person of Eberhard's brother Arnulf to watch the royal interests. When Berthold died in 947 AD, Otto conferred the duchy upon his own brother Henry, who had married Judith, a daughter of Duke Arnulf. The Bavarians disliked Henry, who spent his short reign mainly in disputes with his people. The ravages of the Hungarians ceased after the defeat on the Lechfeld, and the area of the duchy was augmented for a time by the addition of certain adjacent districts in Italy. In 955 AD, Henry's young son Henry, surnamed the Quarrelsome, succeeded him, but in 974 AD he became involved in a conspiracy against King Otto II. The rising occurred because the king had granted the Duchy of Swabia to Henry's enemy, Otto, a grandson of Emperor Otto the Great, and had given the new Bavarian Eastern March, subsequently known as Austria, to Leopold, Count of Babenberg. The revolt soon failed, but Henry, who on his escape from prison renewed his plots, formally lost his Duchy of Bavaria in 976 AD to Otto, Duke of Swabia. At the same time, Carinthia was made a separate duchy, the office of Count Palatine was re-established, and a Bavarian church became dependent on the king instead of on the duke. Bavaria at this stage included the Inn basin and the Danube from Donauwörth to Linz. The March of Verona briefly fell to Bavaria before passing to Carinthia. The most important Bavarian cities at the time were Freising, Passau, Salzburg and Regensburg. Restored in 985 AD, Henry proved himself a capable ruler, establishing internal order, issuing important laws and taking measures to reform the monasteries. In 1002 AD, his son and successor Henry II gave Bavaria to his brother-in-law Henry of Luxembourg, after whose death in 1026 AD it passed successively to Henry, afterwards Emperor Henry III, and then to another member of the family of Luxembourg, ruling as Duke Henry VII. In 1061 AD, Empress Agnes, mother and regent of the German King Henry IV, entrusted the duchy to Otto of Northeim, under the Welfs. In 1070 AD, King Henry IV deposed Duke Otto, granting the duchy to Count Welf, a member of an influential Bavarian family with roots in northern Italy, in consequence of his support of Pope Gregory VII in his quarrel with Henry. Welf lost but subsequently regained Bavaria. Two of his sons followed him in succession, Welf II from 1101 AD and Henry IX from 1120 AD. Both exercised considerable influence among the German princes. Henry IX's son Henry X, called the Proud, succeeded in 1126 AD and also obtained the Duchy of Saxony in 1137 AD. Alarmed at his power, King Conrad III refused to allow two duchies to remain in the same hands, and declared Henry deposed. He bestowed Bavaria upon Leopold IV, Margrave of Austria. When Leopold died in 1141, the king retained the duchy himself, but it continued to be the scene of considerable disorder, and in 1143 AD he entrusted it to Henry, surnamed Jasomirgod, Margrave of Austria. The struggle for its possession continued until 1156 AD, when Emperor Frederick I, in his desire to restore peace to Germany, persuaded Henry to give up Bavaria to Henry the Lion, Duke of Saxony and son of Henry the Proud. In return, Austria was elevated from a margravia to an independent duchy in the Privilegium Minus. It was Henry the Lion who founded Munich. Geographic fluctuations. During the years following the dissolution of the Carolingian Empire, the borders of Bavaria changed continuously, and for a lengthy period after 955 AD, it finally started expanding. To the west, the Lech still divided Bavaria from Swabia, but on three other sides Bavaria took advantage of opportunities for expansion, and the duchy occupied a considerable area north of the Danube. During the later years of the rule of the Welfs, however, a contrary tendency operated, and the extent of Bavaria shrank. In 1027 AD, Conrad II split off the Bishopric of Trent from the former Lombard Kingdom of Italy. He attached it to the stem Duchy of Bavaria, which was then under the rule of his son Henry III. From the 12th century onwards, the counts residing in Castle Tyrol near Murano extended the territory over much of the region and came to surpass the power of the bishops of Brixen, of whom they were nominally vassals. After the deposition of Henry X the Proud as Bavarian Duke in 1138 AD, the Counts of Tyrol strengthened their independence from Bavaria under his son, Henry the Lion. When the House of Welf was again given to the Bavarian Duchy by Frederick Barbarossa at the 1154 AD Reichstag of Goslar, the county of Tyrol was no longer counted as part of Bavaria. Duke Henry the Lion focused on his northern Duchy of Saxony rather than on his southern Duchy of Bavaria, and when the dispute over the Bavarian succession ended in 1156 AD, the district between the Enns and the Inn became part of Austria. The increasing importance of former Bavarian territories like the Mark of Styria and of the county of Tyrol had diminished both the actual and the relative strength of Bavaria, which now on almost all sides lacked opportunities for expansion, the neighboring duchy of Carinthia, the large territories of the Archbishopric of Salzburg, as well as a general tendency to claim more independence on the part of the nobles. All these causes limited Bavarian expansion.